Are you here? There's a ghost. Or maybe I'm knocking on the table. You decide which one. So yeah, Sulphur Springs, Season 1. To be clear, I did sort of watch this, but I didn't finish it. Also, Season 2 exists, and Season 3 exists. And also, I forgot most... I remember most of the story. I remember the main story, which is basically... sort of like... actually, no, I'm not gonna... Which is basically the beats of the story. But I forgot it. But, yeah. The one thing I am going to admit in the non-spoiler section is one of the things... Two things. One... I don't want to say it because it sounds like I'm being an ass. Being like, look, there's children who can act. It makes it seem like a... but yeah, the actors that they have, definitely in Season 1, are like, they actually have emotions. They actually have reasoning. You don't have... you actually have them caring, which I respect. I like. I also like the fact that you have younger versions like, oh yeah, I can see that. Because they have a thing, and one person in the past is meant to go up to someone in the future. Don't worry about it. That's a spoiler thing, but don't worry about it. The main point is, within the two, it's like, oh yeah, I can see that. I also like the idea, because this takes place in Sulphur Springs. And I think the house, I'm pretty sure the house is in the advertisement. But the one thing I definitely like is that the house looks decrepit. There's so many moments where and it's like, ooh, this is fun. Like I said on my stream, I was thinking of planning to put Season 1, 2, and 3 maybe in one episode, but I chose not to. As you can see here, this is just Season 1, and you will get Season 2 on... You'll get Season 2 on the 8th. So in, basically... Yeah, in 4 days, you'll get Season 2. And then in another 1, 2, 3, 4... 5... No. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 days, you'll get Season 3. I would also like to point out, if I don't finish Simpsons Season 9, you might get it in 4 days. So either way, it's 5 to 4 days between each one of the seasons, which is going to be a bit weird. But overall, I think this is a fun series. And let's talk about, in my opinion, the fun stuff. So what do I mean about fun stuff? So the whole thing is the secrets. What's going on? What's this? So this has a lot of stuff. There's some moments that I feel a little bit weird, but I feel that's on purpose. Like, there's a moment where it's like, I want you to never talk. There's a moment where you have these two separate families, and this one's mom was like, I want you to never be friends with this kid and his two siblings. Also, she has a sibling. And it's like, why? What's going on? And I love it. The more you learn, you do understand more. You do get more understanding, but at some point you still get more questions. There's certain things, like, you think it's like this person's father because they were communicating, they had a bunch of pranks together, and they generally knew each other. And then you realise that, one, both of them are like, oh, I didn't know her, but they did. And also, her mum later finds out, she asked her mum, oh, did you go to this camp? No, she did. And then later on, they go to a thing with the talent contest, and she sort of rigs it. Or seemingly rigs it. Which is a thing where it's like, wait, what's going on? And the more you learn about what happens, because the whole thing's set up on, by the way, the ghosts exist in this house. There's a ghost, it's doing certain things. It's most likely from this person here. And it's like, what is this? Why is this happening? And I like later on, one of the things that happens is, as they go through, the whole point was this girl went missing and tried to figure out what happened and why it happened. And then you realize, well, she did went missing. She literally went back in time even further, and that's sort of why that sort of happened. It's sort of like going further and further back, and they had to do this whole thing, which I like, with the canister being like, and then they finally get along, yay, and like learn about each other, and sort of get this settled, because like you can tell that originally, like, yeah, everyone's lying because this girl went missing, and yes, both sides didn't tell the other what actually went on, because one, like, something happened, he left and ran, and then the next thing he knows is she went missing. Which I like the idea, if you look at the timeline, he ran, she ran, but ran somewhere else into like this like small cubby area, which led to a bunker, which led to a machine, which led to time travel, which is absolutely interesting. I love it. I love that idea of like time travel. And I'm so excited for season 3, which even though you're going to get season 3 on like the 15th, I'm going to watch it on the 5th. Not today though. Today is BBC where I'm watching Pokemon. But yeah, I watch weird stuff. My next couple of days are Pokemon, Secrets of Sulphur Springs, Alien vs Predator, and Four Nights of the Apocalypse alongside Fairy Tail 1 episode and My Adventures in Superman season 2. A lot of up and downs. It's just really fun in that way. Anyway, I definitely think this is really good. And how it continues into season 2 with the photo and bringing that up. Oh, we're not done yet. There's more. Here you go. Because I feel like to season 1 to season 2 and season 2 to season 3, they have a good hook into the next season. Because I like that idea being like, we're going to like put this thing, because I don't know if it's going to be a season 4. I highly doubt it, because like this series I think is old, and if there was going to be a season 4, it would already be out by now. So yes, Sulphur Springs was cancelled. No season 4 for Disney Channel's Adventure series. Springs will not return for a 4th season. It's cancelled after 4 series per deadlines. Don't know why it was cancelled. Actors age, yeah, fair. Most of the casts are fairly young. So, surprisingly, kids grow up. And season 1 to season 2 canonically takes place right off. If they did a thing where it's like 2 years later, they could have done something with it, but they didn't. So they're kind of having this, and then they grow up, and then they grow up. Which makes sense, it makes sense. Hopefully they were able to finish it in a succinct, nice way that sort of wraps everything up. It's easy free, otherwise I'll be sad. But yeah. So yeah, this mystery is really good, and going into season 2, introducing you might need to go back in time again. For what? We don't know. I'm not going to mention it, because I do know why. I do know the whole thing that season 2, and I like it, but that's not important. But I do think it's really good. But again, I hope you like, I hope you enjoy, and most importantly, Good night. I will see if there's any spirits here. That rolls at 7. Let's see if there are. No, that's stage 1. So yeah, we're back. Sulphur Springs. This is season 2. And yeah, the original chat, and I'm going to mention this, the same thing that I'm going to do with Alien. I was just trying to be like, should I combine it? And that was with The Simpsons. The Simpsons had a thing. I've remodeled everything. A lot has changed since the last one. I had so many different things working on each other, and I was about to do this thing where I'm like, Simpson. And I realised that was stupid. So I just have one now that's on shows I need to wait, where it's basically Simpsons, Disney Plus, and it's one episode. And then I do have 10, 11, 12, blah, 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 but that's near the bottom. So yeah. But again, this is just a sort of show that I watch. Again, I just like this. I find this really entertaining, and I really enjoy this. I'm annoyed at season 3 because season 4 wasn't going to happen, and what season 3 left on, yes, it left on a twist, but I got mentioned that here because that's not important. The one thing I like in this one is that they have this whole thing about sort of, because the last one dealt with like, oh, this person went disappearing, this is about it. This one was about a sort of like dispute. Okay, so we have a picture of you in the past. Why? Learning about it and learning about certain things. And the spoiler session is going to be huge, but learning about what's going on, how this happened, is so interesting. It definitely leads into what happens in season 3 a lot more. Like, I feel like you can't, like, you can somewhat understand season 2 if you forgot certain parts of season 1. But I feel like season 2, I know that sounds stupid, but like season 1 is about one story. Season 2 and 3 are sort of about one thing, even though there is a major change, and I like it. I love that change. I think it's really interesting. Actually, let's talk about that now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One of the major spoilers was the fact. So what happened was, in the past, this family owned this farm and the house, which is where the sort of like hotel is, the Tripton Hotel. But the sort of like one person, their sort of like one of their ancestry's mother, great grandmother, I think, I don't know how many greats it was, died, and because of this lawyer who did this sleazy trick about it and tried to work around, it meant that because the original plan was to sell the land, sell the farmland, but keep the house. But because of what they did, they worked around it, and it's like, oh no, now I own the land, leave. And at a certain point, it's, well, if you know the time period, it's so effed up that he got away with this, and he manipulated people to be like, oh yeah, this happened. And it is so, like, inhumane and so dark, and I love it because of that. I also like the fact that, like, so many things are being messed up because you have the spirit being like, oh, this isn't right, this is happening in this specific way, and is getting annoyed, and just wants them to leave. I also like one of the scenes where it's like, we're here, deal with it. It's like a big moment, like, we're here, deal with it. It's like, oh, it's so fun. It's so interesting. The one thing I absolutely love, the reason why I think this whole section will probably leave until 9 minutes, even though we're not even past 5. Because you deal with this document, and it's like, instead of like, oh, here's the actual document, give it to the person in the past. It's like, one, the history will change, and it's one of those things where it's like really interesting, like, yeah, we have this document to prove this. We could easily give it to the past. I would like to point out, he could clearly say probably forge, or whatever. I think they do talk about that. And I do like that idea. But you take it to the future, you show the parents about it, and show them the sort of like, oh yeah, this is sort of the thing that happened, that sort of like created this. Sort of like document. Anyway, weird. But you show the parents the document, and it's like, yeah, by the way, this house should have been ours, and like the land, the area around it, the farmland, was owned by you, but not the actual house. And I like that he's like, no, and then both sides are like, do you know what? Why don't we join in this together? Like, I was looking for a new place to open my, like, sort of, like, I don't know if it's baking or cooking. I think it's a bit above. I was looking for a new place to do this. You wanted to open a new hotel. Why don't we work with this together? And I love this. Because besides opening up with them, 54321, they go to the future, which is insane, which also shows another side of it, which has the one thing I like is in the past they swapped because they look identical. You can't really tell, but at a certain point, which I think is really interesting, is you'd have her younger brother, who in the future grows up and does this thing with engineering and builds the time machine. You have him sort of looking after the girl who disappeared in the first one, and he asks questions, and I love at a certain point being like, he tries to hide it, and he's like, well, I used your machine. This is how I got here. I shouldn't be in this time period because I shouldn't be born. And I just like, and she doesn't say it like that, but I just love that, like, trying to say it without sounding insane. And I like it. And so much. I think some of the stuff would have been explained in season 4. Because you have this more older woman show up from time to time. In, I think, season 2 and season 1 and season 3. Which I think was meant to be an older version of the girl. Which I find really interesting. But overall, I like it. It's building up to something that happens later in the last episode. Which I like. It's like, something odd is going on. And I absolutely think this is interesting, and I'm curious where they're going to go with this. Well, I was curious where they're going to go with this, and I am annoyed where they would have gone with this in season 4, because they introduced a couple of things. I feel like they might have done one more season, but they did just do and I'm not going to say what, because that's not relevant to this, and it's not to do with season 2. But I love the other hook that they have, which his father finds the bunker, and it's dun, 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 but she's around the corner. His friend, when he was younger, is around the corner, and still like that age when they were younger, and it's like, what are they going to do? What? And I like it. And because this is over, this will be like another thing that I release. Obviously not on TikTok, so it won't be on like one of my counts. I'll just merge the 30 minutes anyway, because why not? Why not? Da, 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 da. Anyway, I'm most likely to do it on this one or that one. I don't know. Most likely probably on that one. But I do think this is really interesting, and I absolutely would recommend. Wait. So yeah, I do like this. I am slightly annoyed about season 4, but we can't do anything about it. But it was a good watch, and I would recommend it, with amazing characters, amazing dramas, even though they lie a lot and there's a lot of miscommunication, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, it is still fun, but a bit dramatic. So yeah, I hope you enjoy, like, and good night. Let's see what the card says. It's blank. But apparently everyone's thinking of you. Oh well. So yeah, I redid it because the first one is, yep, it's the end. But that wasn't done. And I did the last couple of things of like, ghosts. And then I've done predicting the future. Because technically this is fitting. Because this is in the future. About the future. It talks up with the future. And that's the whole thing. And I like it. It's all about preventing the inevitability that changes. And I also like the idea that it changes itself. The future changes. Which I like. This is going to be shorter. Definitely this one and the next one. But the reason why is because I'm sad. But let's talk more about that. It's not going to be a short, but shorter. Because the last ones were 10, 10, 10. Or 2 10s. But I think this is good. I like the story. I have talked about the actors being good. I have talked about all of this. And I do like the story. But one of the things with the story, because I want to focus on the story and then the other bit, which impacts my feelings on this. So, the one thing I like about the story, and I really do like it, is the whole thing, because this secret, because I've said in the past, I still don't believe they should have told about the family and told about this. Even when I was watching, I think there's a couple of streams where I talked about it and being like, this could be helped with saying the truth. There's a whole thing on story about hiding the secrets, and I'm like, do you know what? With what is at stake with some people, I feel like they should tell. And with some of them, like, oh yeah, we don't know what's down here in this thing, and we're gonna lock it up. My question is, how does that help? It's, oh, this is happening, we're gonna lock this up, we're not gonna talk about this. That doesn't help the solution. Because hiding stuff for what I'm used to, and that's one of the things that slightly annoyed me in this. There's a lot of like, oh, there's a thing that we don't know, lock it up. And there's a lot of things like, oh yeah, I'm back in here, in this thing. And there's so many, that moment I don't like. I do like the other thing. The only secret which I do get, and someone understand, even though I'm like, at my thing, I was like, this is not helping. They're looking into this. At the end of the day, when they found the border, they should have said most things. But I get where it's at the point where it's like, you're in a coma. And it's like, that's not great. It's like, that should have like been told. But it's hard to tell someone, by the way, I saw your future. You're in a coma. That's a bit like dark. But I like the idea that the ghost from the present hears and they're talking about the future. And it's like, oh, wait, this is bad. So I'm going to speed up what I'm doing. Which is really interesting. I also like the idea of looking into the future. That idea in general, I think it's fun. But with this whole thing, I'm not a fan of the sort of series ending. Because obviously it ended with another twist like the other two. Season 1 ended with, by the way, you have a photo in the past. Season 2 ended with literally the whole, what they're planning to do with Season 3. And Season 3 ended with, hi, I'm your child. Which is like legitimately is a odd thing. Maybe that's one reason why it was removed. Because that's an odd conversation to have, like, by the way, I'm your child. I'm like, okay, that's a thing. That's a thing that has happened. Got it. And I'm like, if, like, some people are like, yeah, I don't think. So, yeah, I get that, but I'm annoyed that we just left it on a cliffhanger. So yeah, I have said that this is going to be shorter compared to the last two, which both were 10. And mostly because I'm realizing having too many 10 reviews is not really helpful and does extend a long one. So sometimes there'll be a 10. And because Season 1 and 2 I like, and Season 3 I'm not as big as a fan of, so I'm doing this. But I still think it's good. I am annoyed that I get a cliffhanger. I don't know what they're going to do with the season, and if they're going to announce what they did plan for it, because that would be something I would be excited to know. Like, what was the plan for, like, season 4, if they would have, or if they would have just carried on with the cliffhanger, so it would have had an excuse for being like, yes, there's more story to tell. Because legitimately, without the cliffhanger, I would have loved it. It would have been like, we looked into the past to save this person, and we did good things, but if you look into the past, sometimes you see some of the darkest things, including in this season, which looks into the past, it's about a murder, and it's really interesting, and it could get messy, and it could affect the future, so sometimes we just live in the present. So if they just ended up with, just like, and we should just stay in the present. Did I hear something? Oh no, something just dropped, and they left. I would have preferred that because they could have been like, that's a good season. We don't need any more, but yeah. Yeah, I just ended on 6 minutes because then I could just do this thing. But yeah, I think it's good, I think it's entertaining, and good night.